Welcome back to My Week in Trucking. This is where we're going to talk about week number 51. That's the week that ended December 17th, 2022. I'm a company driver, W-2, for Cheeseman LLC out of Fort Recovery, Ohio. Stay tuned at the end where I'll have some final thoughts, but let's talk about it. Obviously, we spend a lot of time in truck stops where you get to watch a lot of trucks drive by. Sometimes you get to watch them coming in. Sometimes you get to watch them going out. But you get to watch a lot of trucks going by. Some drivers like that daytime driver. We call those solar drivers. Some drivers are night drivers. We call that the night train. I run a little of both. Then there's that liquid sunshine. Yes, rain. Now, rain is a lot better than sleet or snow, but rain is one of those things that we have to deal with. So our weigh station. Now this place looked familiar. Oh yeah, it's Greer Terminal. Yep, weighing the truck before I hit the road. Look at all those brightly colored fall leaves on the ground. There are times that it is just as tough to go into a spot forward as it is backwards. Sometimes even more difficult to go in forward than backward because you really have to watch that trailer. It does not bend in the middle. And that makes things a little bit more difficult than it would have been to back into the spot. We tend to go to the same places quite frequently, and that makes it easier to deal with the places because we know what to expect when we get there. We know where the check-in is, we know where the checkout is, we know that it's going to be a drop and hook or a live load, and it makes things really easy when you're doing the same things over and over again. However, there's a nice mix of them. Although I don't think there will ever be a nice mix of Atlanta traffic. Atlanta traffic always sucks. Atlanta's an unusual city, being that trucks are not allowed to go straight through the city. All trucks have to use 285. And that makes 285 a nightmare. It's always backed up. It's always bunched up. There's always a lot of traffic on 285. One of my favorite shippers is out of Lithia Springs, Georgia. Loads there are really easy. They're all drop and hook, and we'll be taking them usually to Wisconsin, sometimes Michigan, sometimes Kansas, but I seem to take a lot of them to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a live unload, but it's a relatively quick live unload, and it's a good excuse to find a quick trip to get some of that good chicken. Man, I could use some of that good chicken today. When you're having a live load or a live unload, it's a great time to take a nap, do your safety training, watch a couple videos, work on a YouTube video, all kinds of things you can do. Eat a meal. It's a great time that you have kind of a relaxation in the middle of your day. Now, I've heard some horror stories from some of the guys over in Reefer working at some of the other companies that when they get to those grocery warehouses, they talk about 8, 10, 12 hours, sometimes longer to be unloaded. That's not just a nap, that's a full sleep shift. I've been fortunate and never encountered that myself. All right, looking at the logs page, we had 3,211 dispatched miles, 3,152 logged miles, 3,155 odometer miles. Okay, here is my unedited pay statement for week number 51. That would be the week ending December 17th. Number one went from Laredo, Texas to Newcastle, Indiana. Paid $1,008, 1,384 miles, 72.7 cents per mile. It's important to note that there is a layover pay in there. That is $100 for doing a 34-hour reset. The second run of the week was another direct run. It went from Newcastle, Indiana to the Greer Terminal in South Carolina. Paid $345, 504 miles, came to 68.5 cents per mile. The third run started in Greer, South Carolina and ended in Fort Recovery, Ohio. Both ends are terminals. It had stops in Lawrenceville, Georgia, Lithia Springs, Georgia, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, 2 stops in New Berlin, Wisconsin, and on to the Fort Recovery Terminal. All right, so this week we had $62 in empty miles, $1,951 in loaded miles, $28 handling and securement, $134 for stop pay, $20 for hazmat pay, and $100 for a 34-hour reset pay. That totaled $22.96.15 for 3,211 miles or 71.5 cents per mile. Compensation by type, 3% for empty miles, 85% for loaded miles, 1% handling, 6% stop pay, 4% for the 34-hour reset, and 1% for hazmat. All right, looking at the calendar, I have on the calendar the days that I work in red, the days that I'm home and off in green, and the days that I take an off day on the road in orange. When you look at the month of November, I worked for this company 13 days. Remember, I came back to work here on the 19th. So the 19th to the 31st are 13 days. I worked 9 of those days and I was home for 4 days. In the month of December, there were 16 days that have passed so far this month. I worked 13 of those days, home for 2 of those days, and off for a reset. The first week that I was back, I made $1,780. Second week I was back, I made $1,920. The third week, I made $2,228, and this week was $2,296. How high can it go? I'm working on these videos to keep these videos as interesting as possible. Yes, my voice sounds weird. I'm getting over being sick, and I lost my voice, and it's now coming back. One of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to have some different content in the video section, because going to the same places all the time, well, that could get boring. So next week, I'm going to focus on detention. I actually had a little detention, which is kind of unusual for me. But we'll talk about that next week. And I'm going to try to put other things in there, such as trying to scale the truck and get the weight correct between moving the fifth wheel and moving the tandems. And it's boring for some people who've been drivers for a long time. But it also goes into some of the things that I didn't know when I was at Millis, because we didn't worry about where the load was in the trailer. Here, I supervise the loading quite frequently with forklifts, pallet jacks, things of that nature. And I had to learn some things to know how to put the load in the trailer. If it fits, it ships. Does not work in trucking. Anyway, I hope that you've subscribed. I hope you like the content. Please feel free to comment and be sure to give a thumbs up. Thumbs ups are free. And make sure you're enjoying every day at work.